Welcome to another show of Kenya Explained. My name is Esther Nyonje, and it's only 10 days to the next general election, and we are seeing the end of an era and the start of another. And I'm joined by Kenya's most sought public policy expert, political analyst, Professor Herman Manyora. What should I add to that list?
Don't remove. Remove. I like being just Manyora, simple. I'm not
Simple boy.
sought after and what. No. This Kenyan thing of all these things.
But if you speak of a political analyst,
yes.
Herman Manyora comes to mind.
Well, maybe, but it's not a very important one. Just a man who talks on TV.
Well, I would want to be like you when I grow up.
When you grow up, good. Welcome. Now you are learning from the feet.
From the best of the best.
Yes.
Okay.
You'll go far.
Thank you so much. So we are coming to the end of an era of the Jubilee administration. How would you critique it?
It's been very difficult. You know, in 2012, 2013, Kenyans were told choices have consequences. And people say, unasikia sema, wazungu wanataka kutuchagulia president. You've heard the way Carson has said, consequences, he's stressing it. Of course, you're speaking American English. Choices have consequences. Part of the problems we face today, that we have faced throughout the Jubilee administration, must be traced to ICC. You cannot run a country effectively with the burden of ICC on your back. It's not possible. You are a human being. Even when you have a normal court case, life ceases to be normal. Everything, including eating, sleeping, everything a human being does ceases to be normal. And just an ordinary case where there's a potential you could be jailed. You can imagine ICC. And you are running a country. It was a mistake. And we are paying for some of those mistakes. So right from there was a mistake. We ignore the provisions of Chapter 6. We are now living with the same problem. However, the Jubilee administration has tried, when they recovered from ICC, they have tried to do the best they can do. But just when they are getting back on track, the differences between the president and his deputy. So, if I were to give Jubilee administration 6 out of 10, perhaps it could have been 8. Now they have 5.5, 6 out of 10. Perhaps it could have been 9, 8, which have been wonderful, excellent, But because of those two challenges, but they have tried their best. I always say this. Moi did better than Kenyatta. Kibaki did better than Moi. Uhuru has done better than Kibaki.
You think so?
Of course. I don't buy this nonsense that Kibaki was the best president. In fact, in my ranking, and this will come out in a book of mine, Kibaki is the worst president Kenya has had.
Come on.
The worst president Kenya has had.
Come on.
He's the worst.
Look at the economy right now.
I'm telling you, Kibaki is the worst president we have had. You must begin by asking yourself, why is Kenya not where it's supposed to be? Why is Kenya's economy not doing well? Why is our economy still a third world economy instead of moving up? It is because of our politics. Another way of saying tribalism. Kibaki had a chance of a lifetime to slay the dragon of capitalism in 2002. He chose to be parochial, Kikuyu, and follow mediocre fellows, and then tossed Raila into the sea or under the bus. We will never forgive Kibaki for that. It was a chance of a lifetime to end tribalism if he worked with Raila. He didn't do that. Come 2007, Kibaki did that which even Moi could not do. Refused to leave power when you have been defeated openly. Grab the trophy imewekwa katikati ya kiwanja. Team Raila imeshinda, wanataka kwenda kuchukua kikombe. Grab it and run away to State House and get sworn in at night. Those two can never be products of it's the worst president we have had. In terms of the economy, Kenya had gotten so low, anybody taking over after Moi would have taken it higher. So what you are seeing that attributing Kibaki was what anybody would have done after Moi. Secondly, and Kenya sometimes, even educated people, just laugh. Kenya is part of the world. There were global trends. Kenya was just a minor player in those trends. You cannot talk of liberalization because it was what was happening across the world. You see, you cannot talk of democracy because the wind of democracy and of multipartyism and good governance that was sweeping across the world after the fall of the Berlin Wall, that even Moi couldn't resist, was finally culminating the things we saw during Kibaki. So you cannot say he's the one who did. Like, for example, liberalizing, going liberal on the exchange. Before, if you were found with dollars or any currency and you didn't declare the airport when you enter, you'd go to jail like Oruru Kanja, former MP for Nyeri. But those things were changing across the world. Every country was opening up on exchange. You can now just have dollars, nobody asks you got them. That's not Kibaki. Government had been borrowing badly from the local market. And the push was to move the government out of the domestic market. With that, the interest rates had to go down. And now the banks had money that they had been lending to government. So when people say pesa watu walianza kutoka kwa bar hapo kwa hoteli kuna vijana hapo wanakuambia chukua loan, free loan. Yeah, these are simple things that were happening irrespective of who would have been in State House.
Power.
Yeah, so people don't read things well, but Kibaki is the worst president. So I'm saying Uhuru is better than Kibaki. Whoever takes from Uhuru will be better than Uhuru. Why am I saying the word better? I'm using better to mean Moi did things which Kibaki had not done, Kenyatta had not done. Uhuru is doing things Kibaki had not done. Kibaki did things Moi had not done. That's what I'm saying, better. The country becomes better incrementally. Unless you have Manyora for president, who will be radical, who will take this country in another sphere. The rest of these people will just add kidogo kwa ile ya mwingine. So Raila will add on what Uhuru has done. And people are saying that, how can you compare Uhuru to Kibaki? In what sector would you say Kibaki outperformed Uhuru? You will not find one.
In the economy?
Which economy?
He was more stable with the economy was more stable at Kibaki's time. Infrastructure took a good start with things like the LabSet project. There was introduction of free primary education.
Listen, people talk of infrastructure. And by infrastructure, they just mean thicker, a 34 or 40 kilometer road. You know how many roads Uhuru has done? How many kilometers? You see these wonder projects you are flying over in Nairobi. Hata wazee wanaogopa ku drive juu huko. You cannot compare what Uhuru has done to what Kibaki has done. In fact, the economy of Kenya when Uhuru took over was the 12th largest economy in Africa. It's now the 6th largest economy. On the way to being the 5th, 4th. And whoever takes over can quickly, if it's Raila, move Kenya to the 3rd largest economy before the end of the first term. Uhuru has moved Kenya from 12 to 6. What other measure are you looking for in terms of the economy? So economies across the world, Esther, have taken the hit. Across the world. Some of these things, they're happening across the world. People are seeing things they have never seen. They have never even heard. The world is changing in a way you cannot blame a president of a country. Granted, there are things Uhuru would have done better. And some of the things could not have been done better because of forces beyond him. Others he could have done something about, he didn't do. Others he did half-heartedly, half measures. But by and large, if you look at what Uhuru has done, is by far greater than... In fact, what Uhuru has done is greater than all presidents put together, including the colonial administration. In tangible terms. Any question?
So like with the big four agenda, yes. Housing, manufacturing, UHC and agriculture, yes. How would you rate it with its performance and implementation?
It's not very successful. The way they were conceived, from the conception of the ideas, they were not well explained to the public. The way governments run, government is not a sprint. Government is a marathon. You come in, you do your bit, you go home, somebody comes in. Many of the things we are seeing that we are crediting Uhuru for, they were put in place and in motion during the Kibaki administration. And some of the things like free education, There was already what do they call them? They call it not a sessional paper. Yeah, there was a sessional paper. There were already things on education. It is actually, if you want to look, if you want to know who midwife, who brought the idea of free education on board, is one Buffalo soldier. You know Buffalo soldier?
No.
Man Steve-O, do you know him?
Man Steve-O.
Buffalo soldier.
No.
Buffalo. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka.
Ah.
During I don't know what time this was. What was that? During the Moi's dying years or something like that. He will explain to you how the education docket, the free education idea was conceived, including things like CDF. So the way governments work is that you come today, you find an idea that is going through incubation, and you process it to completion. Then somebody says, it is me, it is me.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if you didn't give it your goodwill and your attention, it may not have seen light. But you are not the originator, perhaps. Equally, there are things you will originate yourself that you may not be there to implement. Other people, that's how governments work. That in perpetual succession, things are always happening. Yeah. So unless you get an idiot who says, I will stop this because it was started by somebody, like MPs do down there, governments will always have new projects, new ideas, and so on and so forth. So Jubilee have done their bit. The big four were conceived wrongly. The thinking on, what do you call, universal
Healthcare.
I don't agree with it. Not with the way it was conceived among the big four, not the way Ruto sees it, not the way Raila sees it. Of course, me, I'm a radical thinker, so I wouldn't go their way. My way is simple. Give Kenyans free health care. We can afford it. The best in the world. You just walk to a hospital, all you need to produce is evidence you are a Kenyan. And if we have a system, it's just your thumb, the social number. You know, what we have here is, we are talking about Huduma number.
Huduma number.
The social something numbers are also in the UK, in the US. You know, so we needed that. So once you walk into a hospital, we just know Esther Nyonje is a Kenyan. Thumb tu unaweka, your system comes up, your records there. You don't need to explain your history to the doctor. It is already on the screen. So you are a Kenyan, your record is already there, you are treated, you get medicine and go home. And within 2-3 years, all these private hospitals will close because they will have no business. But when you bring NHIF, which is the big four, which is Ruto, which is Raila, NHIF is a fraud. You are doing business with the health of people. So I wouldn't argue. Now, in terms of housing, it cannot be possible that you can do 500,000 houses in a year or something like that, even 5 years. You wouldn't do that. So it is more like opening space for people to build houses, beginning by making land available. So it was ill-informed from the start. So not Ruto, not Uhuru. Even if they had continued to be friends and brothers, even if Uhuru had continued calling Ruto William, they would not have implemented the Big Four in the way it was conceived. The idea of Big Four was conceived wrongly. You see, on health, I've explained, is useless. On housing, it is useless. Because you are trying to build. In fact, government should be the one building houses. Avail land. Nothing else, land and infrastructure. Kwisha, we live in a metropolis where people grow trees. You know, trees in Thika, pineapples in Thika. That's nonsense. How can you grow trees in a metropolis when people are living in slums? So that is how it was conceived wrongly. The other one is what? Manufacturing. You cannot have manufacturing with all these cheap imports in the country. None of them, not Raila, not Ruto, is talking about imports, dumping, second-hand clothes. No, you can't. You cannot, a country that admits all rubbish from China and India and elsewhere and Turkey, cannot industrialize. Because imported goods will always be cheaper than local goods. You get it? Local sugar is more expensive than imported. Everything imported will be cheaper. Because the concept of importing, exporting things to other countries is to get foreign exchange. So you can find a shirt in India going for, say, 10 rupees, but they are willing to sell it to Kenya at 4 rupees because they are targeting the dollar. Because the business will be not in Kenya shillings, not in rupees, but in dollars. So that's the concept of dumping. So unless you address those, what manufacturing are you talking about? The last one is, I don't know, called what?
Agriculture.
Agriculture. Agriculture Agriculture, you can't, not Ruto, not Raila, not Big Four. They are all useless. Because agriculture must begin with the question of land. Unless you sort out the question of land, who owns which land? How much of it? The constitutional framers were skirting around Waliogopa. They say parliament will deal with the minimum acreage. No! People have thousands and hundreds of thousands of land idle. They are not using it. Then you say you are dying of hunger. Then you say I'm dealing with agriculture. Food security. Food security na kuna mtu ana 100,000 acres Narok. Hajalima for the last 20 years. We either repossess it from him and put it to use or tax him. Have you heard Raila say that?
No.
Have you heard Ruto say it? It did in the Big Four. Then you can believe the nonsense of Big Four in terms of agriculture. Can you believe the nonsense Ruto is talking about agriculture? It can't work. In a country like this, has Ruto in his miracle agriculture, in the miracle of agriculture, has Ruto talked about seeds? How can a country as small as Kenya, whose need for maize seed is just hapa, how can you allow all these players from all over the world to bring all sort of useless seeds that affect the product? Has he pronounced himself and say, in my government, there will be no private seeds in this country? We'll use the University of Nairobi, Seuku, Egerton, the rest of those universities, Carlo, Kenya Seed, all these government institutions will work together to produce free maize seed for farmers. But you know the people who are producing maize seed in this country, they can't touch them. So they're all lying to us. So Big Four was not going to work in the way it was conceived. Neither can Ruto's plan on agriculture work. It will not work. Kenya will continue begging in the foreseeable future until radical people take over government.
Well, this is so much wisdom and insight, and we could do this all day and sit under think tank here for Kenya. You have very good ideas and I like them. And so we'll be bringing you more of this content. So don't forget to view, like, subscribe, and see you next time. Bye-bye.